Welcome back to All Things Ruthless for another recap of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, Season 1, Episode 4. And on the beginning of this episode, we see where Dr. Havers is still trying to experiment, trying to make that experiment work. And we find out that he is the patient that he has been actually working on to see if he can manage, or he and Marissa could manage and live without being taking in human blood. However, that's not working out very well for him. As we can see, Dr. Havers passes out. After a night of intimacy between Beth as well as Wrath lets her know that he has to go out. There's some things that he has to do. She doesn't want him to leave, but he has to go. And so we see Jose as well as Butch, and they're having a conversation about these more bodies are being found, and they're automatically blaming Wrath because they found the stars that Wrath had at their same site. So Beth goes into the other bedroom because Wrath told her before he left that that other bedroom was your father's bedroom. So she goes into the bedroom. She sees articles about herself. She also sees an image of a woman who is indeed her birth mother. And at this point, Beth gets really emotional at the fact that, oh, wow, this is a picture of my mother, and wow, I'm literally sitting in the bedroom of my father. So then we see Wrath as well as Rhage, and they go out because they have to slay a couple of lessons. They got to, run into some lessons outside of that karate store or that karate shop. We see Rhage, and he becomes a whole new Rhage. He becomes almost like this big old dragon type, dangerous type individual. He has this big tattoo on his back, and he literally hulks out into this big old creature that takes out these lessons. And of course, he says that he hates turning into this individual. Then we get to see Beth, and she is laying in her father's, Darius's bed, and in walks Zadis and tells her, he would be willing to take her. However, Wrath thankfully comes in right on time and says to him, don't ever touch her. That's Darius's daughter. He walks out of the room and he gives Beth a good hug, like a comforting hug, I should say. So then we see where Wrath brings in Rhage, and Rhage is like sick. He is sick to his stomach. She gives him some type of antacid, such as like an Alka-Seltzer, to help calm his stomach. He did just eat a couple of lessons, so his stomach is definitely going to feel really weird. But Wrath tells Beth, thank you for taking care of my brother. So then we see Dr. X or Mr. X, and he is in front of an individual that he has just slain. Then he's going to walk out of the door, open up the sun, and let the sun basically burn this individual to a crisp. I don't know what happened with this guy. I don't know if he was one of the Brotherhood, but he ends up being taken out. It's funny how Mr. X can walk out in the sun and a lot of the others cannot. But there's a moment where Wrath is telling Beth, the ones that he lost were basically his mother and his father. Some lessons came to take the whole family out, and his father hid him in a cage or in a closet. And he felt like he was a coward because he didn't do anything to help them. Once they were done unaliving his family, he just sat quietly until some civilian vampires came and let him out of that closet. He feels bad for not doing more than what he thought he should have done to basically help. But Beth tells him, that's not going to stop me from, liking you. That's not going to stop me from allowing you to protect me. So then he says, for the truth, you are like no other. He's speaking in his other language. And then he says something about a Leland. What a female of worth thou art, Leland. And she's like, oh, is that another word for bitch? And he's like, no, it's definitely far from that. So Leland, girl, you looking at wife duties. That's all I can say. But then we see where Beth is making her way out because she has to go to work. Of course, that alarm has sounded. She's on her way to work. And as always, Wrath tells her to be careful and to come back later. We see a class where Mr. X is just talking to the students. And this one guy, Mr. O, says the reason why they're not finding anybody because he took out two and Mr. X took out one. Basically, they're not finding anything or any vampires because they're not trying hard enough. So he unalived this guy. Mr. O does. He unalives this guy, and then Mr. X sticks his finger in his mouth and says, "If you ever do that ever again in front of the classroom or anybody else, I will be the one to take you out." So then Mr. X receives a phone call. He has to go ahead and completely disappear, make this guy disappear. So he does that. But then he goes and sits down and talks to Billy Riddle, who he hadn't heard from all day. And they have a conversation where Billy is basically telling Mr. X that he thinks someone is following him. He explains that he looks like somebody by the name of Wrath. He doesn't say the name, but he tells him who he looks like. So Jose talks to Beth and tells her he needs her to come in, but he also tells her that your boyfriend basically is having something to do with all these women being unalive. She's saying he's not guilty like that, but then we see Beth and she makes her way home, but she's not feeling well at all, and she literally passes out. Thankfully, Butch goes to her apartment. He's really going there to talk to her, but he goes there and find her. But we see where Vicious calls Wrath and lets him know that there have been more bodies found, and it's looking like Sadist has something to do with all of the unalived. So he says he's going to call a meeting. Everybody come to the house right now. Like I said, Butch goes to find Beth. He goes to talk to her, but then he finds her laying on the floor. So he has to break into the room. And he's saying, "I'm going to call 911. I think you have an overdose." So he attempts to call, but she's, "No, take me to Wrath." And so at the home of Wrath, Wrath basically has to apologize to Torment for the way that he treated him. And basically all is forgiven between Torment as well as Wrath. But then Zadis is being accused of the unalivement of all those women. And Zadis is saying, "I'm not the one that did it." So Butch brings Beth over to that big home, and he is surrounded, after giving Beth to Wrath, he is surrounded by the Brotherhood. And of course, he gets into a little tussle with Rhage. He definitely gets into a little tussle with Rhage, and he sits on top of him after swinging him to the floor. Torment says that Butch is being spared because Beth wants him to remain alive. And of course, they have to do what Wrath says, okay? So once Fritz walks up to everyone, he says, "Hey, are those vintage crepes that I like?" And of course, he gets one, and that finally calmed Rhage down for a moment. Everybody's hungry right now. So then we see Wrath as well as Beth, and he cuts himself to give Beth some of his blood so that she can live, because if she doesn't take his blood, she'll probably pass away. She'll probably be unalived. Then Butch sees Marissa, and he's complimenting her, saying how beautiful she is. Marissa never really heard anyone tell her how beautiful she was. She's always been hidden, and Butch is automatically spitting by her because she's absolutely beautiful. But then we see Mr. X as well as Billy Riddle sitting in the car, and they're just having a conversation. Basically, Mr. X has invited Billy Riddle to come and live with him and work for him. So then we see Wrath, and he's praying to the Virgin Scribe. He's basically asking the Virgin Scribe to, never has he asked for anything. Never has he ever asked for anything from the Virgin Scribe. And he's asking for the Virgin Scribe to not take this female away from him. He's done all that he can. He's been obedient, and he does not want her to be taken, but he begs of the Virgin Scribe, do not usher her into the fade. Do not usher her into the fade, meaning don't take her life. Keep her here with me. Wrath is really, really in love with Beth. He says, "She is my heart. She is my soul." And so he's literally begging and pleading with the Virgin Scribe to please. She is my heart and my soul. Please allow her to stay here with me. Y'all, that was the end of this episode from the Black Dagger Brotherhood. What are your thoughts on the latest episodes, the first 4 episodes that we have received? There is about 2 more episodes to come, and they will all be screened on Passion Flix. Make sure you guys are locked in, tapped in, and tuned in, and check out all of the latest episodes on Passion Flix of the Black Dagger Brotherhood. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. Have an amazing day. Stay ruthless.